Okay, so I am going to talk about the different type of knowledge. Before that, you remember we talked about the knowledge assets, and we also talked about explicit knowledge, tacit knowledge, and also procedural and declarative knowledge. Now, if you look at this table, it shows the different type of knowledge which could be classified either as explicit knowledge or tacit knowledge under the category of what you call declarative knowledge or procedural knowledge. Now, we have also decided to talk about the context specific and technology specific use of different kind of knowledge, which is related to declarative as well as procedural. Now, if you look at declarative, explicit and tacit both. Now, explicit is say a book, right. A book which talks about a particular thing in general, that when you are going to buy a company stock, what are the things that you are going to look into, like price to earning ratio, dividends and these kind of things, right. So, it is explicit which is available in a book which is given, okay. It is a declarative, it is in a declarative form. Now, if you look at the tacit form of knowledge, this suggests that when you are going to buy it, okay, that though you have declarative information in explicit form, which gives you information that when you are want to buy a stock of a company, what are the things that you need to consider. But in this case, you are going to see that when you are going to buy the stocks of a company, and this decision is based upon the kind of knowledge and experience that you have. I am not saying that you are not going to make use of explicit knowledge, you are going to make use of it, but the decision to buy a stock depends on you, which is more personal. You are not only going to look into the factors that is described in the text, but also use your experience, your insight and other things when you are going to do it, right. See, it also has a two context, that is technology related and context related. Now, suppose in a particular context, it says that okay, when you are going to take a decision that okay, there are certain there is a team which is not working well, so you need to replace certain teams, certain members of the team, and this decision has to be taken by you, okay, which is related to particular project. Now, if you look at the technical specific aspects, and there is a manual which is going to talk about configuring a computer, okay, so that you can achieve a specific performance that you want to achieve. So, when I am talking about declarative explicit technical knowledge, which talks about how to do a particular things, where the manuals are available and then you make use of these manuals to perform certain jobs, right. But if when it comes to tacit knowledge, it says that okay, if you suppose something goes wrong, then how do you go about it? Are you going to use explicit form of knowledge to find a fault, or you are going to use your knowledge and experience to see that what went wrong with the computer system, which can be corrected, right. Now, look at the next form of knowledge, that is procedural. Okay. Again, it has both explicit and tacit form. In explicit form, basically it clearly says the process through which you should go to buy a stock of a company, right. Now, this gives you the basic knowledge, but it does not mean that you are going to decide when you are going to buy a stock, right. Now, if in a particular context, for example, you can see that okay, when it is reflect senior manager asks you to replace certain members of the team because the team is not working well, and then you decide to do it. Okay. So, you have a context. Okay. Now, if you look at the tacit part of it, because of the context you have decided to change a member of the team, but if you look at the tacit part of it, okay, this suggests that you are a person who are going, based on your knowledge and experience, you are going to see that how you are going to motivate people to the organization, because there could be books, information about motivating employees, but it may not work, because if you go by that, it may not work. So, as a manager, as a person you are going to use your knowledge, your wisdom to see that what needs to be done in order to motivate people or employees in a particular or specific context or situation. Okay. Now, in terms of procedural, again if you look at the technical specific part, there is a manual or guide which tells you the process to configure the system or change a particular part if it is not working, right. Now, when it comes to Tacit, based on his experience and knowledge, he knows what are the different steps which can be used to repair that, and he is going to use his knowledge, may not be necessary that he is going to follow the entire procedure that is used, because it is going to save time and resources, and that is where tacit knowledge becomes more important. Now, we will also discuss that how to converge tacit knowledge into explicit knowledge. Now, if you look at this figure, it suggests that there are different ways through which you can converge tacit knowledge into explicit form. Not only tacit to explicit, but also explicit to tacit and tacit to tacit, and that is why if you look at both the axes, it says from to, that is there are two type of knowledge, that is tacit knowledge and explicit knowledge, and then how we are going to convert this tacit or explicit into explicit and tacit. Now, if you look at tacit to tacit, there are two ways to do it, that is socialization and internalization. Okay. It means then when you are interacting at a personal level, when you are having dialogue, collaboration, relationship, in these cases you are using certain techniques known as the process of socialization and internalization, through which the knowledge is transformed or transferred from one individual to another individual, but again it remains in the tacit form. Okay. Now, when we are using tacit to explicit, it means that you are going to use externalization. It means that you are going to see that how this could be documented or used in some form, so that you can transform that tacit knowledge into explicit form, or you can also use a combination of these three processes, that is externalization, socialization and internalization, to move from tacit to explicit. Now, I am going to further explain this using this. Now, what is socialization process? Socialization, where you are going to share your experience at the individual level or at the group level, okay, and the learning takes place through observations, imitations and practice, and that is how you come to know about the knowledge which the other person has. Now, the next technique is externalization. Actually, externalization is that how we are going to articulate tacit knowledge into explicit form, okay, and that there is a process through which you are going to articulate certain things which is available to you, and then you are going to present it into a particular form. Okay. It could be theory, it could be concepts, it could be models, okay, and that is based on your knowledge and your experience which is with you, and then you note it down, you develop a concept, provide an analogy or develop a hypothesis or a model to explain the relationship among certain concepts or phenomena, and then that tacit knowledge is transformed into explicit form, and that is where you are trying to examine the relationship among various concepts, or you are going to develop a theoretical model to explain certain phenomena or the behavior. Okay. How this externalization takes place? It could be through reflections of the people in a team or group, or through dialogues with the people or groups. Okay. Now, another process that we are going to talk about is internalization. Okay. Internalization basically where you look at the things which is available in the document, manual, guideline, and you learn from that, and then you gain the knowledge, and that is what we call learning by doing. So, the experience that you gain out of doing certain things is known as internalization. It means that you are going to internalize those certain experiences based on your readings, your observations, okay, and other things that you go through, which is available into what you call either in tacit form or explicit form both, okay, and that is what we call internalization. Okay. Now, these documents and other things also helps you to internalize, because you have certain documents, you go through it and then you make use of it to do certain things, okay, and in the process you learn, and that is what we call internalizations. And you can also make use of these three processes, okay, where you are going to systemize these concepts into a knowledge system, okay, and so that you can reconfigure the existing information and the knowledge. So, there are certain, suppose for example, based on your externalization you have come out with certain theoretical models. Okay. Now, based on your experiences you are going to test it whether it is correct or not. So, when you test these theoretical models and you find that you need to make certain changes in these models based on your experience, intuition, knowledge and skill, then what you are using? You are using all the processes, you are using internalization, externalization and other factors. So, you are using a combination of these factors to reconfigure the information and knowledge that is available. Okay. So, this is what we call different form of knowledge convergence. Now, if you look at this graph, which clearly tells you that how we move from tacit to explicit, explicit to explicit and from explicit to tacit to get the knowledge. And this also tells you the four processes that we use to have either tacit or explicit knowledge. So, if you look at the boundary, it shows four different processes that we have talked about, like externalization, combination, internalization and socialization, and we make use of these processes, okay, to create either tacit form of knowledge or explicit form knowledge, right. Move to the next one. Now, how this is done? How we capture, organize, access knowledge that is available? If you look at the traditional systems or the older ways of doing things, okay, you need certain forms. It could be auditory or geographical or written, and that is how used to capture knowledge. So, the old way to capture knowledge was that it is available in the written form, like auditory form or in a geographical representation in a graph, so that you can see it. So, and that is how capturing, organization and access was done, so that you can make use of it. Say for example, there is a written, okay, or there is a lecture which is available in auditory form, or there is a book which is written by somebody. Okay. So, this book is a documented form of explicit knowledge, okay, which is organized and structured. So, you have access to it and you can make use of that to do certain things, right. So, that was the old thing, okay. And this organization was done through content, indexes, classification systems. Say for example, our libraries are the best examples of how the knowledge is organized and accessed by us. So, library system, if you look at, it has a codification system, it has a classification system, it is very structured. So, suppose you are looking for a book in a particular area, so you have to go to the classification system to find out where the book is available, okay. And that is what we call a classification system. A content and indexes can be identified, and based on that you can check the content and other things, okay. And you need to access it physically. It means that if you want to have a book, where you have to go? You have to go to the library, okay. So, it was available in physical form, okay, because it is not available in virtual form. So, if you want something, then you have to go to the library, to the company or the lab or to the school, right. And the older way to capture, organize and access knowledge was basically for explicit or documented form of knowledge, okay. Tacit knowledge was not being tapped through this process, okay. Now, if you look at the new ways, you know that now the knowledge is being captured in a digital form, in a cyberspace. So, most of the knowledge is available in a most digital form, and that is why you know that when libraries are being digitized, so that you can have access it from anywhere. And how this is being organized, how this knowledge is being organized? Using software systems based on engineering principles, equations, so that it is available anywhere, anytime, right. That is 24/7 by 365. What does it mean? It means you are using technical systems or IT systems or softwares to organize and access knowledge, okay, on a real time basis whenever you want it, okay. And you do not need to physically go anywhere to have this kind of knowledge. If you have a computer system, you can have access to it, okay. and there are different tools that can be used to access tacit knowledge also. It is not only concerned with explicit knowledge. Okay. But what I want to say here is that not necessarily that tacit knowledge would be coming out of this, because knowledge is easily available to you. What you need to do is that you have to make use of that information which is easily available to you to apply in a particular context to perform effectively, and that is where you are going to have tacit knowledge. Okay. And this leverage is much more exponential, multiple times you can make use of it, because there is no restrictions, because library may be open from certain timings, but in a cyberspace you can have information anytime in a real time basis. Okay. So, that is how today knowledge is being captured, organized, and you have access, and so it provides you a better leverage in terms of your efficiency, effectiveness, performance, and productivity. What are the different kind of knowledge activities that is that? So, we start with first thing, that is how to acquire knowledge, because the most important thing is acquiring knowledge, because unless we acquire or create knowledge, nothing is going to happen. Okay. So, at this stage you have to see that how to create knowledge. Who is going to create knowledge? It is the people. Okay. So, the people in organizations or elsewhere create knowledge which could be used by others. Knowledge is also created by people, it could be in the laboratories, it could be in innovation centers and R&D labs of the institutions and organizations, and they try to innovate and create new knowledge. Okay. So, unless they create and innovate something that is new, whether it is related to products or process or systems, you are not going to have a new knowledge. Okay. So, once this new knowledge is created or acquired by you, then you are going to analyze it. Why you need to analyze it? Whether this knowledge that you have created or acquired is going to be viable, useful or not. Okay. So, if you think that this knowledge is good, which could be useful for the organization or for the individual, then you try to organize it. So, try to provide a system to see that how this knowledge can be used. Okay. And then you go for codifying the knowledge. Codifying is the next stage, where you try to see that this knowledge is available in some documented form, explicit form, so that anybody can use that knowledge. Okay. So, organizing means that you are going to classify what kind of knowledge it is, and then you are going to put it somewhere using an explicit form. Okay. It could be visual, it could be auditory, it could be in a book form, or it could be in digital form, so that that knowledge is available. So, once the knowledge is codified, then the next stage is that you are going to make use of how having access and retrieval stage, and that is where you need to communicate. What I mean to say when I am talking about communicate is that you are going to see that this knowledge is available, which could be used by the people. So, if the knowledge is available in a codified form, it is well organized, then it is easy to communicate to the people, or people can get information about that from the retrieval system. And then what is most important is the utilization. Even if the knowledge is available in the archive of the organization or the knowledge management system of the organization, whether you are going to make use of that to doing something, to be more productive, to be effective or not, it is very, very important. So, utilization of that knowledge which is available in some explicit form, which is highly organized, structured and codified way. So, you need a system so that you can have access to it, you can make use of it, and then you see that what is the result. When you are going to make use of that information and knowledge, in order to be productive, you have to see whether you have met the goals and objectives for which you wanted to make use of that knowledge. So, you are going to compare the result with other things. So, if the result exceeds with these processes, then you can say yes, it is a good system, it is very, very effective, viable, which can be used by you for being more productive and efficient. Now, what are the different kind of knowledge management systems that is used in practices? Okay. So, you know that most of the organizations have knowledge teams, which are responsible for creating, acquiring, disseminating the knowledge in the organization or anywhere. and this team may consist of people from different categories. They could be people from say HR, they could be people from R&D teams, they could be people from IT systems, because different kind of people are required at different levels. Say for acquiring you need R&D people, right. For coding and putting them into archive you need IT systems. So, you need help of the IT people, okay. And that is why knowledge teams are multidisciplinary, where you have people from different functional areas, okay. And these functional areas, people from the different functional area form groups, okay. And this is what we call knowledge team. So, this knowledge team is basically responsible for what? Acquire, that is creating knowledge, then storage, then dissemination, and finally, see to it that people are going to use that knowledge which is available in the knowledge management system of the organization. Knowledge. What is the knowledge base? That is basically the contents. Okay. What is available in the knowledge database? So, knowledge database may include the experts, processes, best practices related to production, processes, systems and other things, so that people can make use of it. And knowledge database is basically a repository of knowledge which is available in different forms. Then you have knowledge centers. Knowledge centers basically that is what we call the hub, okay, where the knowledge resides. It is basically the archive where the knowledge is there. So, Google is a knowledge hub, because from there you can get lot of information, okay, and it has a system through which you can retrieve information depending upon the context in which you want to make use of, right. Now, another important thing is learning organization. So, when you make use of this knowledge in order to create and innovate something new, which helps you to be more efficient, more productive, more innovative on a continuous basis, then you become a learning organization. If you look at learning organization, it is defined as a process, it is a continuous process to improve and innovate yourself. So, it could be related to the individuals, teams or the organizations, and that helps in the growth and development of the organization. Next is communities of practices. What is communities of practices? Those practices which a group follows in doing certain things. It could be related to the processes. So, suppose a team is given a project and they have successfully completed the project and have become very efficient. Okay. So, these practices that a particular group has followed in executing certain project. So, what processes they have followed? If these processes are captured and documented in explicit form, then it could be available to others, and that is what we call communities of practices. So, peers in execution of work. So, how the information, the knowledge, the process through which the work is being done by the group is very important, and what there is a need to capture those practices which people are adopting in order to be performing well and to be effective. Okay. Another important thing that is required for knowledge management is technology. Okay. Because in a digital world, what you need is, if you really want to have a knowledge management systems, you need an IT infrastructure or technology infrastructure. You need internet, you need softwares, you need hardwares, you need systems, document management systems, these kind of things. So, technology is important, because it is an enabler, it is a carrier to store and get that information from the store. So, it helps you to build up the archive, it helps you to set up the processes through which you can retrieve the information, okay, and that is why technology is very important. And finally, the initiatives that is taken by the corporate managers. Now, the thing is that how much important is given by the corporates or the top managers to these kind of initiative in the organization. Whether industries or top managers of are really interested to have knowledge management system, do they think that it is going to be useful for them, and if they think that yes, it is a good system, it is going to help them to be more efficient, productive, innovative in future, then they are going to develop or have a KM system in organizations, and they have taken certain initiatives like appointing chief knowledge officers in the organization. And these CKOs, or what we call chief knowledge officers, are actually responsible for implementing and developing and implementing a knowledge management system in the organization, intellectual accounting management or intellectual capital accounting. So, most of these organizations have gone for developing an index for identifying the level of intellectual capital. So, they then try to create intellectual capital accounting, and through this process they try to create intellectual capital in the organization. Now, after discussing this, we are also going to discuss certain layers levels of knowledge management. Where the knowledge resides? Knowledge resides in at different levels in the organization. Now, if you look at the first part, the customer's knowledge, the most vital knowledge actually is with the customers, because the customers are using goods and services produced by the organization. It could be related to any kind of organizations, and based on customers' feedback and information, you try to be more innovative and productive in your products and processes, right. So, the customer knowledge is very important, which is most vital. Then moving to the knowledge in products. Okay. What kind of knowledge you have put in products? Okay. So, if you come out with smart products, okay, then it add more value to the product. For example, today we talk about smartphones. Why we call it smartphones? Because it has added features. It can provide you different kind of activities, or it can help you with different kind of activities. Okay. So, that is why this smart add value to the product. So, you have to see that how smart your product is. It depends upon how much knowledge and information is put in the in building and developing that particular product. The third one is knowledge in people. That is very important. Why I am saying that it is very important is, you know that when I am talking about tacit knowledge, it resides in the mind of the people, and this kind of knowledge, since it is with the people, and if they leave the organization, then what happens? People walk with this kind of knowledge which is with them, and that is why most of the organizations today are interested to ensure that the processes are captured, so that even people leave, the knowledge is with them. Okay. So, the knowledge in people is which is actually available in tacit form need to be captured and transformed into explicit form, because if people leave, the knowledge goes with them, and that is why there is a lot of knowledge in people which need to be captured. Processes, again, when I am talking about processes, that how things are being done, how work is performed, that is very important, because in order to perform any activity, you go through certain processes, and some cases these processes are defined, some cases processes are not defined. If you have well defined processes, you are following the algorithm properly, you can perform the job, but in certain cases the processes are very important. For example, when you are going to take a decision, you do not have enough information, okay, then how do you go about it? It means that you follow certain processes to take a decision based on your knowledge, your experience, your skill, your intuition, okay, which cannot be captured. Okay. So, there is a lot of knowledge which is available in the processes which is still not captured. Okay. So, most of the organizations are also interested to capture those processes that is being used by people in order to be productive and effective, and that is why know-how is required. So, if organizations have this process of know-how, they know that how the job would be done, then the individual experience is going to be diminished. It means the individual is not going to be more important. Okay. What is going to be more important is the process, and the knowledge which they have is being captured by them, so that they can make use of it. Then memory. There is a lot of information or knowledge which resides with the organization, okay, in the form of reports, graphs, okay, structures, okay, which is there in the memory. Now, when we say that organizational memory, what is organizational memory? Memory means the information that is available with the organizations. It could be into the databases, into the archives of the organizations, to the files, the systems, the practices that have been followed by the organization. That is what organizational memory is. So, do we really know that how organizations have been doing these kind of things in the past, and whether the way things have been done in the past is going to help us to do certain things in the future or not, and that is what we call is related to organizational memory. Next, knowledge and relationships, that is very important, because in any organization it is not the technology which is going to help you to codify personal knowledge or tacit knowledge, but you can transform this tacit knowledge into explicit knowledge using this relationship as a base, because people share their knowledge only when they develop good relationship, have effective relationships or interpersonal relationships with other person. So, depending upon the nature of relationship, that is its richness and depth, you are going to identify or at least move from this tacit knowledge from one person to another person, and you can also capture those things, okay, which is there in some form. So, that knowledge is available in explicit form. Then knowledge assets. Knowledge assets is defined as intellectual capital, okay. And this intellectual capital, if you look at this, it is defined as a sum of three different kind of capital, that is structural capital, relational capital, organizational capital and human capital. Now, when I am talking about intellectual capital, it does not mean I am only emphasizing on human capital, because human capital only talks about the knowledge and skill base of the people. There could be knowledge with the organization, that is what we call organizational capital, like trademarks, trade secrets, patents, that is intellectual capital. Structural capital, systems and processes of the organization. Relationship capital, that is how people interact and relate with each other. So, all these are the different kind of assets which make up your intellectual capital. Okay. So, knowledge capital is also knowledge asset is also related to what you call intellectual capital. Now, I am just giving some examples here, a different kind of knowledge that is being created by different kind of companies. You can see that create and discuss. So, if you look at these companies like 3M, Glaxo, they have been able to create and discover new knowledge. When it comes to codifying knowledge, there are a lot of examples, BHA, Standard Life, PricewaterhouseCoopers. When it comes to diffusing distribution of knowledge, you have different companies like British Petroleum, Rover, Miller, HP. Then use, how you are going to use this knowledge. Then you have Buckman Laboratories, Steelcase, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Anderson and Young. So, these are the examples of how different kind of things related to knowledge is being used. Now, in terms of process and culture, there are different companies which have been making use of that, and then conversion, how to converse or transform one form of knowledge into another form. There is another company known as Monsanto, and then measuring knowledge. Okay. That is basically intellectual capital, that how intellectual capital can be exploited and measured to find out what is the intellectual base of a company. Then that of companies which have tried to measure the intellectual capital of the organization, that is like Scandia, Dow Chemicals, and these companies have been able to create intellectual capital index to see whether that human capital is appreciating or not. Okay, thank you.